the thing that scares me is that my years are running out doing the thing I love doing. You know, I love meeting people, I love befriending them, I love earning their trust, I love selling them something that makes them wealthier. When you need money, you haven't got money, and when you've got money, you want more time. That's life, no matter what career you're in. And then you start to realise what's truly important. It's not the money, it's the life. Feeding my eldest son, newly born, in '97, in the middle of the night, and shedding a tear under the pressure.
Domenic, thank you for participating in my new series of podcasts.
Thank me afterwards, don't thank me before.
I'm really looking forward to this one. Now, I've known you for many years. We're just talking offset. A lot of the time, in fact, all of the time, we've been talking about Matsuura and the products that you supply. But today, this is about you. I want our audience to find out more about you, who you are as a character, some of the things that have happened in your career. So that's what we're going to cover in this podcast. And I'm probably going to ask you some questions where you're going to go, what's the answer to that? But that's all part of the fun. So perhaps for now, you could just tell the viewers who you are and what you're currently doing here at Matsuura, and then we'll get into the journey.
Okay, all right. So, hi Paul, welcome to Matsuura, and obviously about me today, which is a bit weird. So I'm going to say thank you, but I'm not sure what I'm saying thank you to. No, so, okay, who am I? So I'm the was the national sales. I'm now the sales director of Matsuura UK. I've been here for 32 years. Started back in 1990 as an applications engineer. I mean, do you want me to?
Yeah, well, let's talk about that journey,
the process.
That's really, I want to know where it all started for you, even back maybe before you started work. What was your ambition in life when you were young?
Right. Okay. So coming from a,
you built like a footballer, so I'm assuming you wanted to be one of those,
No. Coming from an Italian immigrant's son, Dad was uneducated, right? So Dad came to the UK in the early 60s with my mum and my eldest brother. Dad worked hard, and he came over the Bedford area, the London Brick Company. Yeah, all the Italians came in, and that era where a lot of Italians came into the UK to work at the brickyards. So I was born in '68. I was the first child to be born in the UK. So I am English, British, or dual nationality, should I choose to have it. So brought up in a Sicilian household with two other siblings that came along, my brother and my younger sister. So, and everything that Dad instilled in us from an early age was to get an education, to do well, to be polite, to be humble, and get an apprenticeship. That was all he ever used to say, because Dad had it hard, Dad was, as I say, he was uneducated, didn't speak English properly, couldn't read or write English, so we helped him throughout those years. So Dad always used to say, get an apprenticeship, get an apprenticeship, get an apprenticeship. So he sort of that was instilled from my dad. So when I was looking to leave school, I applied for so many apprenticeships at the age of 16. And leading up to that, I'd done an engineering qualification, CSEs then back then, in metalwork, and I remember having this interview at a company called Sojaniques in Newport Pagnell, which was owned by Sip Dixie. So you know the name Sip Dixie. Of course. Okay, so that company used to refurbish machine tools. So I went along with my bag of bits, did the interview, got the job. And it was quite a long time after that George Quinn, actually, I believe he's obviously passed away so many years ago, but he said to me, the reason I gave you the job, Dom, because you came to this interview with this plastic bag full of all these metal components you'd made at school.
What were they? What was in there?
Oh, a nutcracker, a toolmaker's clamp, the normal stuff you made at school, right, back in the day.
That's weird, I did exactly the same. I didn't take the bag, but I made those part of
Well, I brought all these bits and put them on the table, and he goes, you were so enthusiastic and passionate about these bits that you made at school, I had to give you the job. And that says a lot about me, because throughout my whole career, people have always said that you've got the job because of your personality, your ambition, your drive and your passion. Hence how I sell Matsuura machine tools. But so from there I did an apprenticeship, got qualified in the machine shop, so I was a skilled machinist. But I also did a fitting part of my apprenticeship, did machine tool building as well. So I left that business because we got made redundant. I was only 20, I think 21 at the time. Went to a company in Buckingham called Hartridges, Leslie Hartridges, that this is on my CV. I've only ever had 3 jobs, but we were manufacturing at that point the Cubotic Machining Centre, which was a bit of a weird concept. It was like a horizontal machining centre, but with a cube.
Okay.
So you indexed the cube and you had 4 faces. Anyway, I went there because a lot of the guys that got made redundant from Sojenics went there, and I got in through the back door. And I went building machine tools, and very quickly I got into the applications department. So going into the applications department, I was doing obviously the training, the installations of these machines, but I also did my first machine tool exhibition, which was MetCut 90 at the NEC, where the sales manager there saw I had a flair for selling. So we came back from the show and he called me into his office and he says, saw you at the show, you were interacting with customers, you were very enthusiastic, passionate, blah, blah, blah. You ever thought of a job as a salesman? And I said, do I get a company car? That's my 21 years old, you've got to be cheeky.
And luncheon vouchers.
And a luncheon voucher. Do I get a company car? Anyway, so we went from there, and anyway, things didn't evolve there because sadly he then went on to leave, and he came to a company called Beaumont Machinery, which was obviously a subsidiary at that time of Beaumont Machine Tools, who was the agent for Matsuura.
See here.
Here we are now. So he rang me up and he said, Dom, he said, I've been speaking to the directors and I put your name forward to maybe be a salesman for me on the Beaumont Machinery side, selling the Machinery sliding head, if you remember that machine.
Yeah.
So we sold that many years ago as Beaumont Machinery as a subsidiary. Anyway, he said, well, because of your age and because it's a start-up, they don't really want me to employ another sales guy. They want me to go and obviously start selling the stuff and then grow the business from there. However, they are looking for an applications engineer, and I've put you forward. Would you be interested in coming to meet? At that time, it was Bill Tempest, who's my old sales director that's retired, obviously, to come and have an interview for an engineering role. I wanted out. Where I was just wasn't what I felt wasn't real machine tool business. So at the age of 21, I drove up from Milton Keynes to Junction 22 at Colville and had an interview. It wasn't a short interview because I talk a lot, don't I? So 4 hours later, and this was when we were across the road at the Hermitage, from here, it's literally across the road, where Beaumont Machine Tools was a company of just over 10 people. They just set up as a subsidiary of, well, it's actually privately owned by that time by 3 guys. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I got offered a job as an applications installations engineer installing Matsuura machines in October 22nd of October 1990.
Okay, and then so from there to where you are today, this has been the kind of whole Matsuura journey then, I assume, isn't it?
So I joined the business in 1990, and for a few years obviously I did apps installations, and that time we were smaller, so you got to do everything. You were doing service, you're doing apps, you're doing installs, pre-sales, you're doing absolutely everything. And again, because I'd shown, I suppose I spoke, it was interesting actually, and I've done full circle. One of my directors, John Jones, interviewed me as a second interview, and he said, what's your aspiration and where do you want to end up in your career? And I pointed and I said, I want your job. And today I now have that job.
You have that job.
It's 32 years later, but I have that job. But the company's a different business to what it is today, to what it was then. So I went on apps, and John, who knew I wanted to be a salesman, he saw that I was good with people, good with customers. He offered me an opportunity to go into the sales team. And so 27 years ago at Mac 96, bloody hell, yeah, 96, Mac 96, I became a salesman, an ASM.
Okay, now it's clear where you've got to today, Dom, and yeah, it's a fantastic story. Success today. You're now sales director here at Matsuura. But what I want to kind of explore Domenic as a person as well, and what drives you. So in all of this period of your career, what's been the real thing for you that's got you out of bed in the morning? What's the thing that makes you tick as an individual?
I don't want
because I know we've both got the same star sign, and we've got a lot of commonality.
I am very driven. I'm extremely driven, and for me, enough's never enough. It's a trait that I love and hate about myself, because that's the drive. I always wanted to be number one in my field. I think I have achieved that. It's definitely in the UK, and you know, I get complimented by Mr. Matsuura that I am the number one salesman for the group, which is quite an accolade. But I'm humble now, because although I want to be, I don't want to be put on a pedestal. If that makes sense, it's my drive, and I've always raised the bar. So what drives me? It's funny actually, because when I interview salesmen, I say, what drives you? And the instant reply is success. In sales, that's the wrong answer. It's cash. It's money. So if I can answer it honestly, money has always been my driver. We spoke off set, you know, to provide for my family as a father figure, like my father did when I was growing up, has always been a responsibility, and even to this day I take very seriously.
But I think there's more to that with you, in the fact that I think your success is down to how good you are at what you do as a profession, and the equipment that you've got. But you don't get good at what you do for a profession without being passionate about being good at that role. So I think there's always one of the things I've always thought is if you're really interested in something, you're prepared to learn and go that extra mile to be extra good at it. And when I talk to people and interview people and meet people, you can't help but make some kind of judgment as to that person's attitude and their hunger to be good at what they do. And I see that does come really through with everything that we do with you. I think you're very articulate about making sure you know everything about what you're selling and what you're doing. And you can't be as successful just because of the money. You need that too.
No, you're right. I mean, look, I love Matsuura, right? I love everything about my job. I was just saying to you, you know, the thing that scares me is that my years are running out doing the thing I love doing. You know, I love meeting people. I love befriending them. I love earning their trust. I love selling them something that makes them wealthier. You know, and when I go in and people say, oh, look at your machine and what it's doing, I say, it's not mine, it's yours, you bought it. You know, and that whole journey, I think, you know, for me, the career at Matsuura has allowed me to grow as a person. I think you grow with age and wisdom and experience. But to be given a directorship, which is something I always wanted to achieve, when you finally get it, your responsibility grows, but also what you need to give back as well as what you've achieved. So I think, you know, for me personally, I am still driven. I don't want this company and myself to fail in any way. And you've touched, right, okay, I don't want to disappoint Mr. Matsuura. Personally, don't want to disappoint. Because to be made a director of a Matsuura company, you don't apply. You are invited to talk. And that's humbling in itself.
So success, making that happen, is part of your driver too, as well as cash.
It is, and I think once you get to a point where, you know, and if you've done things right in your life, in a career, you know, the money thing sorts itself out. You know, when you need money, you haven't got money, and when you've got money, you want more time. That's life, no matter what career you're in. And then you start to realise what's truly important. It's not the money, it's the life.
And so with all this journey and your life's journey and your career, it's not all fun. We all go through changes, difficult times. What has been the hardest time in your career so far? The most difficult, the most challenging obstacles to overcome?
Work-wise,
Yes.
or personal? Work.
It could be a collective. Because the two do normally have some
Christ,
correlation.
I mean, it's a good one. I mean, the bit that, from a work standpoint, is when we closed manufacturing, where we're sitting now. This was a manufacturing facility for 4 years. So in 1996, when I became a salesman, we started making machine tools. In 2000, we closed it. That period, as a young sales guy, being pressurised to sell machines that we were hardly making any money on to try and keep this facility alive, was the biggest and most stressfulest time I'd had as a salesman. The pressure was ear-piercing. It was absolutely, that I'll never forget. I actually remember, Paul, feeding my eldest son, newly born, in '97, in the middle of the night, and shedding a tear under the pressure. It was, so if you ask me if that was probably that moment. Other than that, challenging times, but we've always been in a better place as a business to ride it. That was.
So if you were to compare those times to now, experience would have taught you lots in that time.
Christ, yeah. Yeah, you can.
Pressure now compared to then.
It's different
to now.
pressure now, you know. I mean, it's funny really, because I remember coming back on the plane in January, where I'd just been for my first, what we call MGM, which is all the group leaders, directors, and presidents of Matsuura Group. We go to Japan, blah, blah, blah. And I remember coming back, and I was talking to my fellow directors. It sounds funny, but always looked up to them as directors. Now they're a fellow director. And we both said, well, I was talking to one in particular. I said, you respect the position. The pressure that comes with the position is one thing, but the responsibility of the position to everybody that works for the business. They don't work for me, you know, they work for the business. We're just the guys at the top steering it at the end of the day and making sure that, you know, we make the right decisions for the business and not for an individual. And I think what I love about this company and what I love about Matsuura, and which is why I suppose why I fit, it's about us. It's not about an individual. It's about us. And I think that you know, I come to work, but it's like being at home.
Yeah.
You know, and I think when we see people, and I think you've probably experienced it more than anyone because you go to all the other companies, you know, we're not an in-your-face outfit, but that's what we are, you know, and I hope that sort of answers the question.
Yeah, and going under the surface of the rewards and the success that comes with what you do here, we talk about the hard times, the difficult times. There must be plenty, and I'm sure there's more good times than bad. Is there any recollection you've got on some of the times where you've walked out of those doors and gone, wow, I didn't expect that. The best and the biggest order you've got. What did that
well,
mean
I've been
to you?
I've been very lucky in my career, right, to have sold some very large projects.
Which come with stresses as well.
Yeah. So if I can reflect, so something I made happen years ago was back in the early days, really, of being a salesman, and I'll talk about. He's a personal friend, two personal friends that have helped me along the way. Well, a few personal friends, but Steve Blewett, who used to work at Williams Grand Prix, and again, I was always looking for something, right? So I remember bringing him over to Emo back in the day, and we were basically in the aisle of Hanover, one of the halls, and I said to him, I said, what have I got to do, or what have we got to do to become a technical partner and sell you loads of machines? Greedy, hungry salesman, right?
Give me a simple answer.
And he said, leave it with me. And from that conversation, and obviously a few beers at night, that what we do in our job, blah, 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 he went back to Frank Williams, God rest his soul, and he helped me broker my first multiple 6-machine order to the value at that point of just over £1 million. So very quickly in my career, so I was only, a couple of years in, and I'd done £1 million deal, right? And the price of machines then, a lot cheaper now. £1 million deal today is 2 machines. In fact, you don't get much change out of £1 million from us today for £1 million. So if you go back 6 spindles, £1 million, and we got a technical partnership. We were a name sponsor on the lorry. We could take customers to the race days and blah blah blah. Now I did that, right? But I was a minnow, and all the directors and Mr. Matsuura, Matsuura, they took all the high life out of it, and poor old Dom, I just had to bear do with the commission, So as a mere mortal. But when I look now, so that was then. Steve then went to Mercedes HPP, and because he believed in the product, he gave me an opportunity when they were looking at manufacturing the X1 and an uplifting Formula One business. So they ordered, was it 13 or 15, I can't remember. Anyway, 11 million quid's worth. It was a bit different. 1 million, 11 million. The sell of 8 Matsuuras on a fast M's was £5 million. These are big wins.
These are points that
these
you
are,
can
oh,
recall.
these are lot. It gives a career changing. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And talking about selling, it's people look from the outside in and they think it looks easy. And we're talking on camera. You're going out, knocking on doors, talking to your mates, which they are your customers as they become. It's a difficult career, isn't it? With loads and loads of ups and downs. How do you now in management or in a directorship with your salesmen that work for you, how do you try and install some of your experiences and some of your beliefs into them to make them as successful? How hard is that? Because management's tough.
Yeah, it is. And I think, so one thing that, having done the job for so long, having recruited a lot of salesmen, a lot of us are still here. Obviously, we've had ones that it's not been successful, it's not worked for us or for them. And, the hardest thing is, knowing what to recruit, what age bracket you want, not to be ageist, but what age bracket, what their needs are, what their hungers are, and how you coach them. I mean, I still do the job today. I'm still on the road, okay? So as a sales director of this business, I'm still out there. I was talking off air. I was prospecting last week, snipering as I call it. But, that's my job, and, along with other responsibilities. But when I take a salesman on, I'll rephrase that, when we take a salesman on, it's because the company can afford to invest in someone. So we're never looking for a quick return on a sales guy, because if you're looking for a quick return, he ain't going to last. So you need to give someone time to grow into the business, understand the products, and understand where we lie in the marketplace from a feature and benefits and a return on investment. The roller coaster of being a salesman, it's a very lonely job. We make it look good, right? The cliche of shiny shoes, suit, tie, nice shiny bag, blah, 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 watch, all look good, doesn't it? But inside, mentally, it's probably one of the most challenging jobs you'll ever have, because the pressure never goes away. Doesn't matter how successful you are, you're still under pressure. I mean, if I haven't sold a machine for 2 weeks, I'm starting to shake. Right? It's like you're looking for your next fix. So if you're not careful and you don't coach people in the right way, the job will eat you from the inside in. It's a pressure that builds, okay? And you start to show that to people, customers. And if a customer senses that you're under pressure to sell, they won't buy off you. It's a real, you used to sell, right? It's a real tricky balance where you are trying to convince someone that we're the best thing in the world and all the reasons why, but not show that you're under pressure to sell. The other one I always used to use, which was a funny one, which I can't use anymore, but I've got another one now, is that, they have to feed my kids, right? I had 2 kids, and an ex-wife that was feeding my kids. I needed money. Now it's my retirement pot. So there's always a reason. There's always a reason to make people laugh. And I think the biggest thing is to be yourself, make people relax.
And I think you have to be yourself. I remember when I first started selling, A wonderful chap, Jack Carter, was my first. I don't know whether you know him.
I know the name.
He used to work for Bridgeport.
Yeah, I know the name.
He took me out, and it was my first. Bridgeport took me on, and they said for the first 4 weeks you're going to go. Well, sorry, the first 6 weeks I went into the factory, scraped away, got to learn the machines. It was a brilliant apprenticeship in the product. Then from there, they said, you're going to go out with Jack for 2 weeks. Watch how Jack does it, and I want you to follow him. And anyway, I went out with Jack.
Fire.
Yeah, so Jack met me on day 14. Get in the car, and we went down probably your territory, like Baldock and Stevenage and all that.
Yeah, just a bit south of me. Yeah,
to all these small subbies that all had these vertical machining centres. And Jack's way, and I hope he's listening or even watching, they used to go into companies and he used to love telling jokes.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So he'd go in and he'd walk through the door and he'd say, listen, have you heard the one about this, that and the other? And there's me going in with him and I'm thinking, do you know what? I'm not a really good joke teller. You know, how am I going to survive in this role? Because I can't go around just telling jokes. I just can't. It's not me. And that comes to your point, is you have to be yourself. You have to find your own way. And that worked for him, but it wouldn't work for me.
I'm not a joke teller, but you also have to be a good listener. So, and I think, you know, I mean, we always say, when you're training someone, I mean, you've asked quite a direct question. How do you train your people? You know, it's to be yourself. You know, find your stories. Don't talk about the product till the end. You know, if you go into an appointment and you hit it off, and you start talking about life, what's going on in your life. Just if you once you get a rapport, a cold call's different to once you've got a relationship with people. I mean, I go and see customers now, or mates. 90% of the call is just catching up. And the last 10 minutes before I walk out the door is the call. So do you want me to quote you that? Do you want me to do this? Or do you want to come and have a look? So, because they're relaxed. And I think, gone are the days, I remember knocking on cold calling, right? We've all done it. I don't think it really works for us. It does work for some products. But, when I first started, I didn't know anybody, if we go back... Bill Tempest gave me a photocopied customer list out of his A4 bounded folder and about 8 or 9 street maps and went, off you trot.
Yeah.
That was my apprenticeship. Right, and then, you're knocking on the door, and it's like, I remember the first time, you're knocking on, no, and so
you very keep going as well.
Very quickly you learn what to do to get in.
But that thick skin, I mean, can you, let me ask, this is be an interesting answer. Can you quickly tell when someone hasn't got that skill to become a good salesperson? Let's say you recruit people, you see other sales guys in the industry, or can you quickly identify someone 100%. That has and that hasn't?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know. I employ people, and to be fair, I will say the team that I've got now, it's never going to be perfect, but it's the best sales team we've ever had, and we're delivering, and also you've got to give them, you need to give them responsibility. I mean, one thing I did very quickly when Roger promoted me to sales manager, national sales manager, I allowed the sales guys to make commercial decisions, to empower the salesman to be a salesman. It's very easy saying I'm a salesman, but if you're not in control or you have the ability to negotiate a price without having to make a phone call, then are you really a salesman? Empower somebody to say, there you go, these are the prices, you're responsible for making X amount of profit margin, that's what go and do your job. If you need to call me because it goes below that line, give me a ring. If not, fill your boots.
And can you think of a time, because I can think of a few from myself, when you can remember something now that you learnt that changed the way you managed your time, or you managed how you sold? Let me give you an example from my perspective. I always remember there was a company in Rugby and they were looking at buying a mill turn machine. And I was ringing this guy, I was trying to drop brochures off, I was knocking on, I was doing all the things you're talking about. How can I get in there? Do I go in the back door, the front door, over the top? This guy just didn't want to talk to me. He just didn't want to talk to me.
Did you get the hint?
However I knew, but this is the thing, isn't it? You've got to be persistent, but you've also got to learn when you're throwing good time after bad.
Yeah. Time management is the most important thing as a salesman, because the time you invest in everything you do is what gives you a return. And at the end of the day, you've got a return to yourself because you want to earn bonuses. But more importantly, you have a responsibility to your employer to sell product to keep the business fed. I know if I'm wasting my time or not within 5 minutes. I know, talking to my sales guys, when they're debriefing me, whether they're wasting their time or not. Don't ask me how I know, Paul, right? I know, right? And if they were here now, they'd go, yeah, he knows, right? Because I challenge them, you know. It's quite funny, really, when a new sales guy comes to the team, they sort of say, I say, call me, let me know, but they all talk amongst themselves. So make sure you've asked this question, this question, this question, before you ask Dom for any help. Because I shoot them down. But Bill used to do it to me. So when I was being mentored by my sales director, I used to come out of a call, all Mr. Cocky Boots, go, oh, I've just had a great call, you know, well, did you ask this, did you ask that? And he like tail between legs. And I remember, this is a life-changing moment, right? So now bear in mind, I worked for him for 6 years and I went on the road, right? So he was my engineering manager as well as sales director, because Bill did both when we were Beaumont. And I remember, in fact, we've got the building back now, which is our additive manufacturing building. I remember going upstairs to see him one day, and I walked into his office and I went, oh, this is great, this job. I've been to see so-and-so, and I've been to see so-and-so, and I'm loving it. He looked at me all stern, he went, I'm just going to remind you of one thing, Dom. We're here to sell f***ing machine tools. I'm glad you're having a good time.
Tail between the legs.
Tail between the legs, and I walked out the door. Boom. And I've done it to my guys ever since. And it does stick. When that situation arises that someone's full of how exciting this job is, you just have to pull the rug, let them free fall for a bit, and then catch them, because the job is what it is. We are salesmen. We're here and we're employed to sell. And if you don't sell, the company doesn't feed itself, right? So it's those little things, but it's all about timing. And that, as you can, that was what, 26 years ago, and I haven't forgotten it.
So
excuse my French, by the way.
I'm sure we can put a bleep over that if we need to be. Taking the work side out of it, how do you switch off from all this? What's your method of going, do you know what, I'm shutting myself away from, or don't you? You know, do you sleep? Are you always on it? Do you have breaks at the weekend? What's Domenic Seminerio outside of this building?
Yeah, I love people. So, you know, my partner and I and my children, I love to entertain. I love to have people around. I love to go away, and just be with people. You know, being a people person. Funny that, really, being a salesman. I do like being with people. I mean, I haven't got a lot of hobbies, but I have a passion for cars, and you know, just going out in my little white thing, you know, and having a blast, or going away. In fact, I'm going to be away with it this weekend. You know, me and my partner are off to a little village just outside of York for Easter weekend.
And would she see you switching off? Would you go?
You know, I don't switch off enough for her. I never switch off. I'm always working. I get distracted from work by doing other things,
but does it always come back to it? Is it always?
I'm always looking for the next deal, even when I'm not at work. I'm always working on the next deal. So you know, that's me. And this will make you laugh. She tried to give me a rule the other day. She goes, right, not before. What'd she say? Not before 7:30 in the morning and after 6:30 at night, you're not to look at your phone. Oh, wait, you're having a laugh, aren't you?
Has it worked?
No. because I don't stop working. I mean, you can't do this. Look, if you want to be a salesman, not an order taker, if you want to be a salesman, right, you don't switch off, right? You can't just switch off. If you want to be a salesman, you're always thinking.
And you want to be good at it, and you want to succeed.
Yeah, if you want to succeed, you know, I think, you know, if salesmen are born, not made. okay? I've always said that. If a certain individual has the tenacity and the skills that can be honed, directed into becoming a salesperson, then that person was born and was guided. I think that was me. I was always, I haven't told, the grand old age of 9, mate, I was on a sweet stall, working market stall, right?
You didn't put that in what we spoke about.
That was right at the beginning,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So at 9 years old, I was working on a market stall, and then my dad had a little business which involved selling, and I did a bit there. But the thing is that it's funny that my whole family, all my brothers, we're all salesmen, and I think, and my cousins alike. So I suppose we've all got that in us from a point of view that we're people.
Are they as good as you at it?
Some of them are very successful, yeah. I mean, one of my cousins has done extremely well, in his own business. But it's because it's all about people, isn't it? People buy off people. 80% of an order is the person, 20% is the product. 5-second rule. If someone likes you, they'll like you in 5 seconds. Yeah. And people listening to this might be laughing, right? But a lot of people in life, when you meet somebody for the first time, you make a judgment within the first 5 to 7 seconds of that meeting that person. In life. Selling's the same. When you present yourself in a cold situation and all of a sudden it's like, you've got to break that barrier.
You've got to get that wall down.
You've got to warm them up and you've got to win them over. This one will make you laugh, right? When I used to knock on doors, I should be doing more of it, but I'm a bit busy these days. I used to knock on the door and say, hi, I'm just in the area. Sorry to, interrupt your busy day, but, I was just been round the corner seeing so-and-so, and they mentioned you, have you got a few minutes just for me to introduce myself? If they opened the door and let you in, you was in for an hour and a half. If they offered you a cup of tea after 30 seconds, you weren't leaving, right? Yeah. But that's what breaks down the barrier, is that people buy off people. And if you can be yourself and that person likes who you are, he'll give you the time to listen. Yeah. If he's listening, you're probing, you're pitching, right? And then can I have a walk around the shop? Yeah. You're in then. Then you go, have you ever thought about this? And now you start selling. The first bit you sold is you. I remember Bill said to me, he said, sell yourself, never worry about your competition, and work your customers, because your customers will then feed you. There I am 27 years later, and some of those customers I sold to back in the day.
And the thing is, that theory doesn't change, does it?
No, it doesn't change, whatever it is.
That formula.
It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what you're selling. People buy off people, and it's the 80-20 rule. 80% of your business comes from 20% of your customer base, and 80% of the order, 80% of the order is you. So, you can look at the science if you want to.
What about the fun part of this? And we're going to come to a close in a minute, Dom, but I want to go into Japan. We talk about how hard selling can be, and how demanding and how switched on you are all the time, but there is a fun part to what you do, and you must have seen many funny things over the decades. When you go away to these trips and customers go with you, these are the really interesting parts.
I think if you are lucky enough to take customers away to somewhere like Japan, and you offer them a life-changing experience. So the one thing I love about working for Matsuura is that we're Japanese, and every now and then we take a group of customers away to Japan, but we show them Japan as well as Matsuura. But when you're away with 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 individuals, depending on who you're going with, you're away for a week. You're living in each other's pockets for a week. I can honestly say, of all the trips I've been on, the majority of those people that I've been away with have become personal, long-term friends. And I think that's the beauty of business, is that if you get it right, you can have a bit of fun, a lot of pressure, but if you can have a bit of fun, more importantly, if I said to you today that my best friend, I have my two best friends are ex-customers, and they are lifetime friends forever, and that's through work. you know, and we never talk about work when we're together. We're friends.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
and we talk business when I go and see them in their businesses. But I think the point I was trying to make is that to be a true salesman, it becomes your life, should you choose it.
Well, good stuff. It's been an absolute pleasure hosting you today, Dom, on this series of podcasts. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And it's been a great journey you've had, and I hope
Hasn't finished yet, mate.
It hasn't finished yet.
There's a few more corners yet. But no, thank you. I hope
Thank you.
it's
Oh, it's
everything
been
you thought.
fantastic. Thank you very much, Dom.